I wanted to open it up to Daniel. Daniel, thank you so much. You come to us from a great organization, Service Titan, which I think what's really interesting about Service Titan is that it's incredibly fast how you guys are growing. You guys have raised almost $400 million in venture capital. You guys empower a network of 100,000 plus contracts through your software. And overall, you guys have this trajectory, this growth trajectory that I believe starts and ends with data. So we'd love to get into that so that ultimately marketers can truly measure their data and their reporting.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that intro, Ruben. And then what we'll also be doing today, before we let Daniel take the floor here, we're going to do a little intro here for Dubb. We're going to do a walkthrough, and we're just going to show, for those of you that are brand new to the kind of Dubb platform, considering we're going to be taking such a deep look at marketing and metrics, and really where video kind of plays a role in this as well. So we'll open this up with, like I said, a quick demonstration here. Questions, comments, keep them coming. And then we will wrap everything up else at the end too. So don't hold anything back here. All right, let me go ahead. I'm going to jump into a screen share. Here we go. All right. So I'm actually going to start here in LinkedIn for a reason I'll explain in a second. What Dubb is, a video communication platform. And there's a couple of components when we talk about, communicating with video. There is the creation aspect, right? Like, how are you making this video? How are you using your cell phone, blah, 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 like wherever the video is coming from. There's the creation part. There's the customization part, which is how are you customizing that video for your audience? How are you customizing it for your business? How are you going to set that video up for success for your marketing and sales purposes? So that's the second. And then lastly is the distribution. We have this awesome video that's all packaged up and ready and perfect for our business and our opportunities. Now, how do we get this out in front of our audience? So this is where Dubb comes in and provides a solution for really all three of these components in one. And so I'm going to quickly demonstrate here each of those kind of in order. Any questions about any part of it, just let me know along the way. So here we go. The first part is the creation. So we have the ability to create a video wherever we're at with just 1 or 2 clicks. So we're on the computer. We have a Dubb Chrome extension here. A little button gives us the ability to record anything on our screen. We can record the webcam. We can record the screen like you can see here with my little webcam down there. I'll actually show you guys exactly how this works right now. So all I have to do is hit record. If I have multiple screens, I can select which one. Does a little countdown. And now after this countdown, we're live. We're recording our screen. So like, let's say if I wanted to prospect Ruben here, we'll just use this one. It's kind of more of a sales opportunity, but I'll just show you this for the sake of it. I'd say, hey, Ruben, I saw we had 1,400 mutual connections. We should probably talk. And I also saw that, we're in the same industry and, maybe it might be interesting. Let me know what you think. I'd love to connect. Something like that, right? Not the best script, but the idea there is you could take just a few seconds to make a video of anything on your computer. This can be their website, their LinkedIn profile, just your face, something of yours, anything you want to record. Now, the next part here is the customization, or actually that's how you create them on the computer. And then there's also a mobile part here. So if you're more comfortable on your mobile device or a tablet or something, there's also a Dubb app, just like the Chrome extension here, basically, where you can record on your cell phone or on your tablet, upload that to Dubb. And it's the same process as if you use the Chrome extension or record it onto the website. So again, whether you're on your cell phone, tablet, or computer, 1 or 2 click access to record a video. You can also take any video from any source like YouTube or your hard drive, your camera roll, and upload those to Dubb. So create or take an existing video. And now once you do that, Dubb is going to do the second component here that I talked about, which is the packaging of your videos. So you can see I made this video for Ruben in just a few seconds, but Dubb packaged the whole thing up so that it's specific to our brand and our business, and more specifically, my goals. So here's what that looks like. The watermark, the background image, the logo, the color scheme, that's all part of the branding and the design elements, and all those got added automatically. And then the next part here is the playlist and the call to action buttons. Now, the playlist is actually really significant here for a couple of reasons. Is just like when YouTube added playlists, they suggest other content after you watch a video. It's much like that, except for instead of other creators' content, you actually have complete control over what shows up in that playlist. And those videos will play automatically for you. So right after they've finished this video, or even the second one, that can be used. So this one is a pre-recorded video that's an excellent explainer video for Dubb. So it's this mini tutorial that is going to help warm up a cold lead or help maybe a more qualified lead learn more about Dubb. And this is just an example of what can go here. So like, this is a little pre-recorded explainer video. And this played right after my first video that I said, hey, Ruben, I wanted to reach out to you and my team made a video for you. Let me know what you think. And it goes into this pre-recorded video. And then after that, it can even go into the next one. So that's the way that the playlist works, is it just plays these videos back to back. So it's almost like you're a video editor and edited these clips together, except for you saw it was done automatically. So I can build that little playlist and have it automatically attach onto my main video there. The next part of this page is the call to action buttons. The whole reason why we're doing videos or marketing or anything for that is to get the person on the other end, the recipient, to take action. So anyone in marketing is familiar with call to actions, and these buttons here can do just about anything you can think of. So fill out a form, download an attachment. We can even capture video testimonials or replies. They don't need to download or sign up or install anything. They just click one button, and then you can take that testimonial and put it in your playlist or behind a button. These can make, I said, phone calls, text messages, WhatsApp, Skype, Facebook, literally anything you would want a recipient to do after having watched your video, they can do so with the buttons here. So you can see my preset or my template is designed for setting appointments. It's got an explainer video, it's got testimonials, it's got case studies. It has a booking option for when they're ready to book, if they're at the bottom of the funnel here. And then we have the more middle of the funnel with our testimonials and our case studies. So this is what the customization of a video looks like. Now, the way Dubb provides this is with a preset, I can instantly customize that whole video page with just one button, one option. You can see it changes the playlist, the call to actions, the branding, the colors, background, etc. So if I'm in a marketing role and I have okay, we're doing the monthly newsletter, or we're doing a new offer, or whatever we're doing, you can see that we have this webinar template for that exact purpose, right? We want to drive registrants to a webinar, we can use the template. This one's more of an example, but you get the point. That is how we can instantly customize videos for what our purposes are. Of course, I can come back and I can change any part of this video individually. So I can add buttons individually here. I can change the color scheme. I can add more videos, whatever I want to do, or I can change it all as part of that preset. So that is the second part here, the customization of the videos. So we talked about how to create them, now how to customize them, which is pretty much automatically. And then lastly here is how to distribute these videos. So now we have this perfect, awesome video for Ruben, and we want to send it to him. Now, whatever methods of communication you're already using, Dubb is going to meet you right where you're working. So we started in LinkedIn. Let's go back there. I want to say, let's say I want to send this message to LinkedIn, to Ruben on LinkedIn. We have direct integration with LinkedIn, Gmail, Outlook, Salesforce, HubSpot, all the biggest names you can think of. We're going to have a direct integration in there, just like this little button there. And when I click this, it gives me access to my library of videos. Anything I've previously recorded, I can instantly insert there. I can even record a brand new video right inside of LinkedIn or Gmail or those CRMs. And you can see when we go to put that video through a message, whether it's on LinkedIn or Outlook, I'll show you Outlook in a second, they actually get that preview of what that video looks like. Now, if we're talking about mass marketing efforts, of course, this kind of personalization is a little bit harder. But as you're going to learn later in this call, it's about the communication between sales and marketing that's going to really open up possibilities here. So like the account executive that's going to send this personal video, this doesn't happen until they have that qualified lead, until they already know that this is the person to do that. That way the sales team isn't wasting their time sending custom messages to unqualified people. More on that later. We'll get into the nitty gritty here. So this is the distribution of the videos. First way is direct integration. Gmail, Outlook, LinkedIn, like I said, you name it, your favorite tool, we're going to have a direct integration right inside that button, or right inside that tool, I should say. And it looks something like this. I showed you the LinkedIn one. Outlook, it's almost identical, little Dubb button there. And it works the same exact way inside of email. So if I have my library here, there's that video I made for Ruben, and I can insert that in there. So that is the first way to get the videos out, is direct integration. The next way is a universal copy and paste option. So this is actually really interesting for some marketing people as well. If you have MailChimp or HubSpot or Marketo or any of these big tools, ActiveCampaign, and this list is constantly growing as well. you can actually take this video and paste it right into your favorite marketing tool and get really detailed analytics, which is what this training is all about. Some very detailed analytics. You're going to be able to see who clicked, watched, which buttons they clicked, really granular metrics that we're going to take a look at here in a little bit later. But this is the second way, is universal copy and paste options. So whether it's into a CRM or a social media platform, or like I said, your favorite marketing automation tool, we can copy and paste this video into those templates, automations, email campaigns, whatever we're using. So that's the second way, is universal copy and paste option. Now, the last way here is Dubb's built-in marketing automation tool. So just like a HubSpot or a Marketo or one of those tools, we actually have the ability to do those same things right from inside Dubb. So with Dubb, you can connect your email client like a Gmail or an Outlook or an Amazon or a Mailgun, whatever you have. You can connect it directly to Dubb and send out either bulk campaigns, like you can see here. This is how we got you all in this webinar today. We sent an email to 20-something thousand people, and we got the seats in here. So that was done using Dubb. That's a bulk email campaign we sent out. Now, in addition to bulk email, there's also bulk SMS. So you can send one video through a text message to a series of people. And now, in addition to bulk email and SMS, there's even automated workflows, which is a series of emails or text messages that'll go out automatically. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one there. And then this is an example of a real life automation we have turned on in Dubb today. It's simple. It's just a series of text messages that goes out 1, 2, 3 text messages over a series of a few days. So this is just during the duration of the free trial. They get some text messages showing them how to use the app and some other useful stuff. So this is also what you can do with Dubb. These can be texts, emails, or both. Now, this is the last way here we talked about, the distribution, which is, as I've shown you now, basically any way that you're communicating, Dubb allows you to send and track, more importantly, and track the videos through all of your favorite methods of communication. Or if you don't have any, if you're a small business, you can actually use Dubb as your one-stop shop to send out all of your marketing and your automation materials. So that is from start to finish. We talked about the creation part, talked about the customization part, and then lastly here we talked about the distribution, which all leads to reporting, right? We have some awesome videos in our advertisements, and then in our follow-up campaigns, maybe in our automation, all these different videos throughout the process, which like I said, we're gonna touch on here. And then we can see specifically who watched, who clicked. We can filter this to see specifically who engaged in what way. Lots of ways to get that reporting. You can see some of them, it doesn't show necessarily who watched unless you have that person's information. So there's kind of different metrics here you'll be able to see, but we can pull out really granular analytics, which is every bit of information on that video page, call to actions, email opens, form submissions, anything they're doing on that video page is tracked in real time even. So if you send this video out, sales reps can get notified immediately when someone's watching this video, when they've watched 100% of it, if they downloaded white pages or case studies or clicked on those links. This is how the reporting from Dubb connects directly to further opportunities. All right, so that is the stage for Dubb, guys. That's kind of what the base of the tool is here. And then now we're gonna jump into some more specific things. Many of those metrics we're talking about with the help of Daniel here. He has some really great things he wanted to cover, and I'm gonna let him take it from here. So take it away, Daniel. Tell us how we can sharpen our marketing and what we should really be looking at. Oh, Mike.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, so a common theme in marketing, a lot of people make this mistake, is that we should measure leads. And this is a 2010 approach to marketing where people had gated content and all this to get a bunch of people in the funnel. And what that ended up doing is, because there wasn't much competition, was allowed people to reach out to people in their potential audience. Now, cut to 2020, the most important metrics you should be looking at right now, and we'll go into depth, all these metrics are: 1, revenue. I think I haven't been to a leadership meeting with the marketing team where they ever brought up leads. Like they don't care how many leads we brought in. It's always how much marketing revenue and how much marketing pipeline, and were we efficient with that marketing revenue and pipeline. I think a lot of people focus on the wrong metrics, and we'll get into that as well, like why just focusing on leads is the wrong way of looking at it. But these three ways of doing it: revenue, qualified pipeline, and also efficiency, which efficiency is a big part of it, meaning like when you have revenue that comes in through the door, you have to be able to make sure that's efficient. So cost of acquisition of the customer, how long does it take to pay back that? So if you're in a SaaS business, cost of acquisition payback. So how many months does it take to pay back that customer that we brought in from marketing? And a big thing to do as well is separate earned media versus paid media. And this is a common mistake people make, because what happens is when earned media is mixed with paid media, it dilutes the total marketing. For example, paid media, earned media has a zero cost of acquisition. Paid media has a big amount. When you add it together, it looks pretty efficient. But when you separate it out, you'll start seeing how inefficient paid is and where the efficiencies are and where the efficiencies aren't. So I'll get into more of that as well. But if Ruben and Darius want to chime in here as well on these topics,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think these are really important things. I think that I remember when I went through a lot of my training as a person that has expertise or at least experience in demand generation, in marketing, sales automation. I went through a lot of those certifications through HubSpot and through Salesforce and a couple other ones. And I think that, there's this traditional sense of here is a funnel, and on the top of the funnel, it starts with leads, and then it goes to MQLs, marketing qualified leads, and then SQL, sales qualified leads, and then opportunities, and then clients, and then hopefully referrals. And that pipeline, it's still a real pipeline. It exists. Our goal is to create content, put it out there, start communities, and then drive to commerce, to conversions, right? So this is definitely our goal. But the problem is that when looking at MQLs, marketing qualified leads, or when looking at leads, it's not exactly the most valuable information. If you take that information to the CEO, if you take that information to the chief revenue officer, the chief financial officer, and you show them that we got X number of leads, Y number of MQLs, that's not meaningful information. Why? Because it's not reflective of ROI. We invested X and then got back Y. Now, we're not suggesting that we should not put emphasis on leads and generating that type of hand raises, form fills, webinar registrants. We're not suggesting that, because those people are on the path to drive to conversions. But what we're suggesting is that you start with a revenue first data approach. And I'll just kind of jump into what I mean by that. When we talk about attribution, we talk about where are folks coming from? Are they coming from Facebook? Are they coming from YouTube? Are they coming from outbound emails? Are they coming from LinkedIn, word of mouth? What are all these channels that are driving interest and traffic? If we can look at our reporting to see where those folks entered and then where they converted, what we're doing is we're getting a 2 touch point attribution model, where they came from and how they converted. And by thinking about that, we start to create these pathways. And the most optimized pathways, where people learned about us and where they converted, those pathways, in my opinion, are where we should invest the most of our dollars. And as we start to gain clarity by using Google Analytics, by using super techie platforms like Mixpanel, which I don't recommend for everyone, like shameless plug, using Dubb to figure out where our metrics are, we can actually say at the end of the month where we got the best ROI. And based on that, we can go reinvest into that, At Dubb, we love creating content. Truth be told, we have never succeeded at cold outbound efforts. We've never succeeded at that. And what it's done is that it's changed the DNA of our company to be a content focused company, to be a community focused company. But I assure you, if you go to any of our channels, if you go to the Dubb Instagram page, if you go to the Dubb YouTube page, Facebook, ebook, webinar registering, there is tracking data on every single one of those links. Okay. It might look like we're focused on content, but we are hyper focused on data attribution. And when we do get those subscribers, those folks that do put in the credit card on that beautiful checkout page, we're able to know, hey, 36 people joined on this webinar and 10 of which actually subscribed to Dubb. So that's kind of my take on this very quickly. Please get your UTM data parameters on all of your links for everything. If you don't have the proprietary technology on your website, that's okay. Configure your Google Analytics. I'm just going to jump into a little bit of a screen share here, and I'm going to show what that looks like, because it is so important that we get our parameters, our data tracking parameters set up and make that part of our religion almost, so that ultimately we can drive data reporting. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. So the first thing I just want to quickly show is that if you go to the Dubb Instagram page right here, you're going to notice here, just a confirmation, is my screen visible here?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Darius. Just to show an example of what this looks like. This looks like a branded URL, very short, no real information in this. But I'm just going to go ahead and click on this, and I'm going to show what these parameters look like. So this is Instagram's forwarder, but you're going to notice here I have the source, which is Instagram, the campaign, which is the profile, and then the medium, which is the social. This UTM right here is going to follow the user throughout their entire experience on Dubb. Now we're a SaaS company. This type of this does not apply just to SaaS companies. This applies to every type of company. Assuming that you have a website, you can have this type of technology set up, okay? Where we have this set up is on the sign up page when people sign up. And this, again, could be a form fill. It could be a registration for something. It could even be a click to another page. It could be the watching of a video. It could be the visiting of a page. It's unlimited what you can do with this. But when folks click on this, we will be able to go back and track what that looks like. So now I'm just going to jump into Google Analytics here. And I'm going to show that what we have set up is we have our biggest mantras. It's not MQLs and SQLs and opportunities. And it's not that. It's not what I learned 5 or 10 years ago. It's signups and it's subscriptions. Subscriptions are upgrades, e-commerce subscriptions. So we have all of these metrics set up. The conversion trackers are all configured throughout our entire tech platform. And then we go back to Google Analytics and we can check that. So if I click on conversion, Dubb sign up, I can go in and I can see exactly where my attribution is coming from. Now, signups are not interesting for us. Yes, we are a free platform. It's a SaaS platform. It's part of the funnel. But what's most interesting for us is the subscriptions. That is the sales, to Daniel's point. That is the revenue. These are the metrics that we can take to the CFO, the CEO, and say, this is what we've accomplished. And what we can do is we can drill it down to all the different channels. We can show that our support channel, support.dubb.com, is driving a 21% engagement rate and a 0.21% conversion rate. Our Dubb.com homepage and the referral is driving almost a 1%, right? So these metrics are all varying based on channels. Now, I'm not having the filters perfectly here, so not all of this data is super relevant, but I think everyone should get the point here, is that by having attribution set up throughout your entire ecosystem is money in the bank. It's a religion. It's that important to us. So I'd love to open up, the floor here for some questions, for some comments. I'd love to understand what people are doing, what they're not doing, where the pain points are, where some of the struggles are. Give me some feedback, and then I can sort of cater this dialogue to specifically what some of the needs are. So if you could just throw some questions or comments in the chat, I would really appreciate that. While you guys are doing that, I also want to show one of the platforms that we use, utm.io. And what this allows us to do is to create a very simple trackable URL. So if I just go in here and if I say dubb.com and then I select my template, let's see if I have webinar in here. There it is. And then I can go and this is actually going to pre-populate all these fields. It's going to generate a long URL and then I can configure a short URL. Now we love branding, so we bought dubb.it. Thank you, Italy. Dubb it, that's kind of our brand. So in this case, this is an example of how we use branding, i.e. just Dubb it, the name of my book, shameless plug, with a trackable URL that goes back into our entire ecosystem, okay? So love to open up the floor here for some questions, comments. Darius, Daniel, any notes from you guys?
Yeah, I would add, I think the biggest thing, if you go back into everything, is understand your customer. And I think the problem with a lot of this is their platform is pretty simple sign up, but let's get into a harder SaaS company like ServiceTitan, where ServiceTitan, we only could serve a certain type of ideal customer profile. So the ideal customer profile is someone that won't churn down funnel, someone that are buyers, someone that are the willingness to buy is better than others. So how we do it at ServiceTitan is we set up like form fields that basically track, is this person fit into ideal customer profile or not? And we have data to prove that if they don't fit into this ideal customer profile, they will churn down the line. And the problem with a lot of marketers, what they do is, I agree, measuring everything, you have to measure every touch point, but you also have to measure when they're a customer and if they're churning or not. Because it doesn't really matter if you acquire a customer and they churn 1 month later or 2 months later. So you got to also do how efficient your channels are to over how long they are staying as a customer. So that's why a really important metric to measure is LTV to CAC. So you have to have the lifetime value of the customer over the cost of acquisition of the customer. And usually a good baseline for this is have that to 3 to 1 for that. Because you could basically tell that if the lifetime value, say the lifetime value of a customer is say 3,000 and it costs you $1,000 to acquire that customer. Now your LTV to CAC is 3 to 1, which is pretty good for a SaaS company. If it goes over that, if it's 5 to 1, that means you have the ability to spend more to acquire a customer, and you can spend in other channels. But this all comes down to understanding how a buyer buys and why the buyer how the buyer buys. Because what the problem with a lot of how people are measuring marketing today is you don't get that the buyer, when a buyer comes to your sites and clicks get a demo or free trial, whatever, they've already made that decision that they've wanted that platform. So that all this content effort that's happening top of funnel, all these ads that are happening are really pre-research before they get and decide they want to get a demo. The reason why like running ads on awareness-based channel that says get a demo and stuff like that is a bad strategy is because these people aren't ready to buy on top of funnel. These people you have to get them to nurture them. That's why content play is one of the best plays. And this is where also I would say video comes in very well into this whole platform of things, because video is the most authentic way to build trust one-on-one with your customer. It's the most, if you see the most highest performing ads, landing pages we have that I've seen in all of my marketing career have a video on it. And then even going, and this is not even like a shameless plug for Dubb, this is just data that's happened before I even knew Dubb even existed. So this is actually something that I suggest. Also, with sales reps, what happens is when a lead gets into the funnel, you want to be able to create that one-on-one bond, because people buy from people. They don't buy from companies. Like a company never has signed a check. You always see a person has signed a check. You've never had a company that says, I'm going to sign this check. It's a person behind the company that signs a check. So what happens is when you efficiently start thinking of the buyer first, and this is why I hate leads as a metric for success, because this is what happens. You have a metric and you create bad marketing efforts when you say, my goal this month is 1,000 leads. So all you're going to do is start handing off these content downloads, Facebook ad leads that are not ready to buy. And what happens is, if you start looking at those metrics down funnel all the way to revenue and cost per acquisition, you start seeing that they converted at like a 0.1%. They didn't create any revenue. Instead of having 1,000 buyers come in, qualified buyers come in, and they converted 40%. You have that difference of there. You might get more leads coming in, but it starts being more efficient. You need less sales reps. You could focus on giving buyer experience better. You could focus on actually building trust with your customer instead of rooting this relationship down the line. And another thing to add to this is, when you have leads that are terrible handing off to sales, sales starts not trusting you anymore. They start saying like, I don't want to work marketing leads. Marketing leads are crappy. So you have to build this relationship that I'm willing to find the best buyers for you to sell, because marketing should not be seen as a sales support function. It should be seen as a revenue driving function. And that's the biggest thing that's happening now in marketing these days, and it needs to change, is that marketing is a revenue driving function. It doesn't support sales. It makes sales easier. It helps people sell more, but it's not a sales support function. That was a long rant, but
I think that's really important there too, because like a lot of our audience too is maybe in the sense like real estate, for example. They often are outsourcing much of their marketing, and we had some couple of questions here in the chat, even like, well, how do we even quantify our, because it's like what you mentioned. There are trying to use it as just a support thing to their sales efforts, right? They just want this marketing team to send them, and they're paying for leads, like you mentioned, and this is not the metric we're after. I've noticed actually a lot of marketers are making the transition now to like paying per appointment or paying per close, or getting paid on deals closed. Again, this is more of a small scale thing for like agencies and consultants and things like that. But I've noticed that when they're making this transition, the marketing is tying themselves to the outcome, then that's more beneficial for both people, because then marketing saying, we can send them 1,000 leads, but if those don't close, then we're not getting paid. Whereas if we're sending them qualified appointments, then and this is more of a breakdown where marketing is separate as an entity from sales. Like I said, in real estate, this is really common, where they'll hire an external marketing company, or lots of businesses actually do it these days, where they're hiring an external agency to perform advertisements for them. Even bigger companies will sometimes outsource advertising now. And what we're talking about is if you're paying per lead, this is a huge maybe mistake. We should try to restructure the way that we're paying for our paid media, because I mean, if you have a great system and you're paying per lead and it's working out for you, I'm not telling you to go try to break that, if it's working. But the idea of paying per lead is becoming antiquated, because the lead sources you can get 1,000 leads, and not a small percentage of them, or none of them, like Daniel said, convert, versus you get less leads and more of those convert. They're qualified. The quality itself is much better. That ends up being a benefit for everyone involved, sales and the marketing team themselves. So whether you're in a marketing role or a sales role, that's one thing to consider. So,
and I want to go into the topic of multi-touch attribution, because I think, and I'm going to go against the grain here, and people might not like this point I'm about to make, is I truly believe that a lot of marketers hide behind multi-touch attribution as a way to use data in their marketing to conflated. I think like marketing needs to be more simplified, and you need to go down to the basics of marketing, which is be creative and stand out and understand your customer. What happens when you overdo data is you might think that that touch point on your website came from a Facebook ad or something, whatever you think, but there's a lot of unmeasurable marketing actions that happen, and the biggest unmeasurable marketing action that happens is word of mouth. I can go into my DMs right now and DM my friend and say Dubb is the coolest platform in the world, but there's no way to measure where that came from. I can go take a screenshot of someone's post on LinkedIn and post on Twitter. There's no way to measure that. We're getting too much as marketers in the sense that we need to measure everything, and we're hiding behind the fact that we just need to be better marketers and stay creative. How we do first touch, last touch at Service Titan, but last touch is a 30-day window. We just do this so we can measure out something to a team. And we also have multi-touch attribution in the background to help judge media mix in the background. But at the same time, I would say that if you're looking at all of these touch points and you thinking, okay, my SEO is doing great, brand searches are up, like it's all because of my Facebook ads. It actually could be people are loving your product and they're talking about it. It actually could be that people are sharing your content, and these are unmeasurable marketing metrics. And I love UTMs and I love tracking data, but I think a lot of us are hiding behind that. I think like go back to the basics and see like which brands are surviving right now. Like look at the brands that are surviving right now are the brands that have created a brand, and brand is really hard to measure. It's all the touch points that happen along the way, and the ones that are surviving right now are the ones that, let me give you an example. If I cold outreach you and I say, hey, this is Daniel from Joe Schmo's Bakery, you would probably not answer me. But if I came up to you and say, hey, this is Daniel from, let's say Airbnb, you would read the brand affinities already there. Like, and that's why it's so important. And that's why marketing makes sales so much easier. It's because once you start creating brand, and brand is a long-term play. And when you start measuring short-term actions in marketing as well, which I believe revenue, but when we start focusing so much on that and we get away with the long-term success, that we just going through a global pandemic right now, and the companies that are really surviving have created a long sustaining brand. They have not created their revenue function is not sustaining because they people don't know who they are. They haven't created a community. They haven't created a place where people come.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Daniel. Just wanted to chime in on that. I think that one of the things that I always think about is this idea of the longest weapon to the closest target, and that's a reference that comes from Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee's martial arts. I'm a student of that method, and what's really interesting about what Bruce Lee taught us is that in his method, you learn a lot of different types of practices, but after you learn all of those, you sort of just use what works, right? And you don't have to focus on all of the intricacies and all of the eloquence of some of the martial arts. You used what's most effective. And I think that my takeaway for that when it comes to marketing is this, is that when we do the work to set up our attribution and to go get our links and to get our data reporting, what it does is that it allows us to be truly creative and to truly focus on the brand, which is actually the next piece that I was going to talk about, because I don't know if anyone noticed this, but in our analytics, 53% of our revenue comes from word of mouth. And a lot of marketers would say, well, that's not good. We should have attribution for that. I actually enjoy that. I enjoy seeing that because that equates to brand. that equates to word of mouth. That equates to conversations that are happening centered around the community that we're building. So when you learn all these rules, put them into place, but then realize that you at some point have to transcend from them and just trust in the system. So this is a really important note, I think, that is a little bit abstract. It's a little bit more esoteric, but it is rooted in, I think, the most valuable thing that as business people, as marketers, we could do, which is to build community and to build brand. So I just wanted to say that note in there. Another thing that I think is really important here is that another piece of housekeeping, another piece of homework that I think liberates us to be creative, to take risks, to try new things and to fail, is to really, truly understand our unit economics. And when we understand what our unit economics are, we can go and we can break those rules. We can pay more money for different, more qualified leads, more qualified prospects, because we know that we have a blended rate. So let me just kind of go into a quick screen share mode here. I think it's really, I think, responsible just to talk about this while also having the discussion centered around branding. So let me just jump into this real quick. So for every business, I think it's going to be a little bit different. And I think it's really important that folks know that, their metrics are what their metrics are. So in most cases, you have an average acquisition price. What does it cost to get that customer? You also have the lifetime value or the selling price. In this case, it's the average revenue per customer. You also have the lifetime value. How much money is that customer going to make for us as a company? And then when you take this data, you can actually drill it down by each channel. But I will end on this quick note that at some point you do transcend from this, and in your mind that 60% of my data might be attributed, but 40% is the best type of marketing, which is word of mouth. It's referrals. It's content community that results in commerce.
And I think another side of metrics, which you kind of pointed out there, is one is you have to have good customer experience. I think like the number one metric for every company should be is how we could retain our customers and make them happy, because the customers are your best marketers at the end of the day. People could argue on that or not, but I think customers talk. If they have bad experiences, they will leave and they will tell their friends. If they have good experiences, they'll tell other people. So churn should be your number one metric to look at as a marketer as well. I think like you should know, like, are these people staying? Because honestly, it's way harder to bring in a new customer than it is way harder and way more expensive to bring in a new customer than to keep an existing customer. So spend money to keep your customers happy, because that lifetime value will start going up. And once that lifetime value starts going up, you could start spending more to acquire more customers because you know that they will stay longer. And this is where like building brand and stuff like that, a lot of the brand comes from is all these touch points, and the touch points don't stop at the sale. There's touch points in your product that is all marketing. There's touch points in your customer success. So you should always be focused on how could I keep my customers happy? And this will in turn create this branding effect where it's word of mouth, because I think one of the biggest things that needs to be scratched from marketing today is the idea of a funnel. The idea of a funnel is terrible because it's something coming in and something coming out. This is why Jeff Bezos is so smart when he created this like flywheel looking type thing, where when someone becomes a customer, that's a chance to get more and more customers. It's a growth loop. And the more people you can get talking and referring business, that's how these companies grow faster and faster. I'll give you a personal example on LinkedIn as a personal brand as well. You The most growth I've had on LinkedIn as a personal brand has came from people talking about me. It has not came from my posts, which my post is the reason. It's became from, well, I'll go back. It has came from my post, because my post, I don't talk about anything that's selling myself. It's all about providing value. But me providing value has got people to talk about my post more and more and share it, because it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them. So that's why keeping your customer happy, keeping your audience happy, creating this branding effect will help you stay longer in business. And if you look at the top companies that are succeeding right now, they all have a good brand. Let's say Apple brand. Apple folks started focusing less on like having the best product and focusing more on like, how does someone feel when they use their product? How does someone feel like when they open the whole customer experience, when they open the Apple box? Like, it's every single touch point that they felt on that. So when you're measuring your marketing, a lot of people stop. This is why leads is terrible, because it's a whole wheel. And when you start at leads and you just measure that, you don't create this. It's so seller centric. It's like, how many people could I get in to try sell? And which, if you're going to do that, just have an outbound org. Like, just have an outbound org call on people, because that's exactly what you're doing when you have that. Marketing is supposed to create this, be the guide for people to come into your world, to educate them, to provide them value, to show how you can take them from the problem that they're having to the solution in the future. And that's why when you look at qualified pipeline and revenue and LTV to CAC, you're looking how many buyers are you providing to your sales team? How many buyers are we contributing to? And honestly, as a CMO or a marketer, you'll stay in business. You'll have your job longer when you do this. And if you have a CEO that doesn't believe in marketing, you probably should run.
One quick thing too on that. This is some super great points. I want to relate them to some of our audience too, because we have a lot of small business and real estate and entrepreneurs here. And I want to make sure that you guys understand how this ties into your individual businesses. So we're throwing some technical terms out there, like your lifetime value. And we had some questions like, well, I'm in real estate. Is there even such thing as a lifetime value? And the answer is absolutely yeah. It's yes, because you do the math on what's your average deal size, what's your commission rate. So you're getting, 10K per close. So then that's your lifetime value. I mean, but you can also then equate and say, well, if over a 5 or 10 year period, this person buys and sells a home, then now that lifetime value doubled from 10 to maybe 20,000. So that's the lifetime value of your client in the real estate space. And that same value can be quantified and calculated in any whatever you're doing, consulting or an agency. That the idea is the same, as being able to quantify, put a dollar amount on how much each average customer is giving you. And this is the only way, like, so some of the other numbers, like the cost per acquisition, some of these things might be hard for you guys to calculate, but it's going to benefit you in the long run. If you plan on being around, none of us are here because we want to go out of business tomorrow. None of us are here to just stay in business this year. We're all here for the long term. We want to build big brands. We want to make an impact. We want to change our lives. And to do that, it requires certain things. And that's a long-term play. So by setting up these ability to calculate your metrics, to calculate the KPIs that actually matter for your business, it may seem complex, but it's important to do this stuff upfront. So if you don't know these things, you don't know your cost per acquisition, you don't know your lifetime value, these are things you probably want to start thinking of, right? You can start tracking them, and it's something as easy as a spreadsheet, but the idea is it's not up here, it's not out of your range, it's not something you shouldn't be looking at. You should definitely be looking at these values.
And now, in the real estate example, this is a good example that you brought up. Let's bring it down to even like the slides example. You get a potential buyer and you sell them, you just want to sell them instead of sell them something that they want and their dream home. they'll be felt used, and probably tell a bunch of people in your community, don't use this real estate agent. So sometimes even taking away and taking a step back and saying, I don't want to even, I don't think something's ready for you right now, but later I think we'll find a home that works for you. Like, is it a great play? Because like I said, word of mouth and brand is what's going to keep you in business. So like, when you're thinking of these short-term metrics, like let's make a sale, like let's do this, long-term, it's going to affect your business, because that person, even if you said had a bad experience, like the bad experience is going to exponentially have a bad, and people will go to social media and all that stuff. But even saying no to a customer that that is not like no homes are that fit their need, they will remember you and come back and use you again, and also talk to their friends and say, hey, look, this person is an honest, real, empathetic person that actually understands my needs, and they'll understand your needs. And then like they said before, if you sell someone a house that they really love, they're going to talk about you to their friends. And that's another part of it that does the talking part is going to get more and more people. And then when they're ready to sell in the future, they're going to come to you because they know that you gave the great experience of that. And that's why it's so important to keep in touch with even your people you sold houses to, because like send them a yearly Christmas gift or birthday present, because you never know like if they're going to tell their friends about you or they're going to buy from you from the future.
Exactly. The other part too you touched on there was personal branding and brand, not personal branding. You were talking about branding and brand, but I wanted to also equate this to individuals, to entrepreneurs, real estate agents. The same exact set of rules applies. You can create personal brand and awareness and longevity for your company in the same way that these big companies are doing, right? Like you don't have the budget to do like a giant impactful nationwide campaign, but you can certainly create a very impactful, powerful brand locally, maybe even regionally. These things aren't unattainable. I mean, in platforms like LinkedIn, you can create national presence from an individual profile. So again, don't think that these things we're talking about are out of your range or out of your league. All these things are absolutely applicable, even to the solopreneur who's just getting started. I mean, it's ideal to keep these metrics. Like you have the benefit of knowing some things to build up at the start. Like I said, we're all in this for longevity. No one wants I just want a shortcut and then give up a year later. So that's why this training and this metrics are these strategies of building your pipelines and keeping that attribution under control is really, really important. We had a thing from Brent here, and he was mentioning, we got 100 leads and only one close, so it's hard to project. That's a reasonable statement, and at the same time, you can take those that exact calculation there. So company X, or we generated 101 leads at this dollar amount. We have average cost per lead, and then we have one deal closed out of that 100. So the total, say if it's $5 a lead, 100 leads, so you spent $500 for one close. So the CPA, your cost of acquisition, is $500 a client. That's not bad considering you probably made several thousand on the close. And then when that metric, you have the confidence to say, okay, on average, we can spend $1,000 on a client, like Daniel mentioned. Or you look at your math and you say, wow, we can spend way more. We spent $1,000 to acquire and 10,000, and we made 10,000. So we have a 10x of that profit margin. Now we can spend way more. We can really increase the budget. So having that metric, having that data is super, super critical, no matter where you're at, just getting started or you're down the road here.
And I think also one thing to note in the real estate example going again is like, I think you go to zig when everybody zags sometimes. And the opposite of a good idea is another good idea, because what will happen is I think like a lot of real estate agents, and I see the ones that are successful, are going to like show their house tours on social media. They're using like different approaches to build their brand. And people are like saying, oh, but I'm not getting any leads for this. But you don't know that people are going to talking and sharing the house and saying, hey mom, this is actually a cool house, we should look at it and stuff like that. So one approach that I think is like start creating a bunch of content if you're a real estate agent. Start using video to go to do house tours and start sending those videos to clients. Like, look, check out this house I just toured, and send the video to people. I think it's a hidden thing to do is create a bunch of content if you're a real estate agent. And you have the best asset for content is the house, like a beautiful house. Like Go walk around and show how beautiful that house is, and show why they should buy it, and show like, and don't only show features, show like benefits, show like, oh, this is like safe, like people like feeling safe. Show that this will make you, if you're trying to look, they're trying to go keep up with the Joneses, use emotional triggers in those videos to sell them while you're doing it as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I wanted to we just have a couple of minutes here, and I just wanted to put an offer out there. We are offering just for this session, if you use the link that I included in the chat here, and then the code, which is DEC2, as in December 2, we're going to give a 50% off the first month, but then we're also going to give included 30-minute strategy session with either Darius or myself or both. And that'll just be done in a Zoom environment like this. It's just for you guys. So it's something that we're doing. We don't do this a lot. We don't discount a lot, in fact, but we're just doing it for this effort. And of course, in the spirit of attribution, we do have some tracking on there for us to know. But most importantly, included in that, you get a strategy session with Darius or myself, and we're going to just do a deep dive. We're going to help you to understand, how to leverage content, community, and commerce. So thank you so much for attending this. Once again, the link to sign up to Dubb is to the right in the chat, dubb.com, and then the code is DEC2. Thank you to Daniel. Thank you to Ina. Thank you to Darius. Any closing comments here?
I was going to say, let's answer one or two of these questions here. Do we still have Ed Yata? Is she still with us, or he or she? Sorry, I'm not sure if that's a boy or girl name. We had a really great question there I wanted to get to. My question is how to transition a company, a culture, from MQL thinking to revenue thinking. They work for a startup, and their CEO is expecting to see marketing reports based on MQLs and SQLs, and they seem to be stuck in that thinking, and it's really hard for this person at Yata to have any revenue focused discussion.
I actually really want to provide this, because I was that person, and I was in that environment for a big part of my career. And I remember everything was about the gate. How are we going to put this asset here and this gate in front of this asset in order to get an SQL and an MQL here? And then we go back and we pull up our reports and we present that to the CEO, and we get a pat on the back. And the problem with that model is that if you have an asset here that builds brand, that communicates value, that provides instruction, and you're putting a gate in front of it, you're going from a conversion rate of, let's just say 25% to 0.5% or 2% or 5%. You're basically, as a marketer, taking a knife, putting it into your shoe and pushing down as hard as you possibly can, just because you want to be able to go to your boss and say, I got an SQL and I got an MQL. There's a better way. This is 2021. I'm going to say that, if that's okay. And we can be better. We can be smarter. We don't need forms. Forms are good to get people for logistics. Forms are not good for marketing attribution. People will come. If your information is valuable, people are going to come. They're going to sign up. They're going to call you. They're going to pick up the phone, and you're going to know digitally or in IRL that this person came to you because they saw that ebook, because they attended that webinar, because they got that amazingly awesome, valuable asset from you. So don't stab yourself in the foot focusing on MQLs and MQLs. Go and do the work after the fact to figure out where your attribution is working, and have technology do that stuff automatically. Put all your content out there. I promise you, put it all out there and watch what happens. The death of the MQL is real.
And I would also add, show them the data of how it's converting down funnel, and show them how much they're spending for that many MQLs. And then you showing, like, the data shows that you bring in 1,000 MQLs, track that down funnel to the sale, and you'll see that it's converting pretty crappy versus a channel that is like a brand channel, like direct visits to your website or organic search. And you'll show that those channels are probably converting really well, because when someone goes to Google, their intent is to buy something or research something. Nobody goes to Facebook to look for a product. Nobody goes to look for a piece of content to look, and then, like, that is the research phase. People go to Google on your website to look for your product and buy. Like those are the channels you should look and track down funnels, show how those are converting, separate them out, and you'll see like this is inefficient when we produce 1,000 leads.
Bill had one last question here before we ended. Bill said, do we see a problem with the reliable predictability of past data? In other words, the halo effect we assign to things that worked in the past. My quick intake or input on that is that this is the reason we have to continually measure, because one advertisement that works today, one campaign that works really well at 20, 50% today, that definitely does not mean that it's going to work the same next week or next month. So we have to continually be analyzing our data, because it is always going to change. There's natural variations in cycles. And then there's also when things become, like the peekaboo game, your audience has seen that creative too many times, it's not going to perform as well. So there's definitely, you can't only base past data on indicative of future predictions. You don't want to live in that world. Well, we did this, so we should get the same result. You always have to constantly be analyzing your data, as we've kind of discussed in this one. So because it changes, you never know what's going to happen from one month to the next. We can use data to predict so much, but there's of course all like the virus that happened. No one knew that was going to happen, and that probably threw everyone's metrics for a loop there when we started.
And yeah, and what you just said right there, like data is one thing. It's in the past, like it's not the future. Data is past data, like it's not something futuristic. That's why it's so important to keep experimenting, having a test budget, having things go. Because for example, the people who predicted 2020 and they predicted their revenue going here, they used past data to do it, and they could. Right now, I bet you that in their models, they could have not put a pandemic in their model. So
no way, no one had that in there. So
I wanted to just take a closing moment here. I know we're a little bit over, but I think we have some folks still around. So I haven't mentioned the word video a lot in this webinar, which is a little bit unique for me, because I usually do. In fact, I'm wearing my MTV t-shirt here because I'm all about video, and I have been since the beginning. But what I wanted to talk about, and Daniel, you touched upon this a little bit, and you said, Daniel, that your landing pages that have videos are typically your best converters. And what I wanted to show very quickly here was this idea of engagement and conversation is, in my opinion, much more valuable than MQLs or leads or SQLs or any of that stuff. Because what's amazing about next generation data tracking is that you can put a piece of content out there without any gates. You can have a video that promotes a webinar, and you can calculate what the engagement is. You can say, these people opened my email, these people clicked on it, these people watched it, these people clicked on the call to action. And then if you're really intelligent, you're really smart, you can, and I have to move my screen really quickly here because this is like proprietary data, but we have names of folks that have actually engaged with those videos, so we can know who watched that video. So instead of saying, well, we put a video out and we put a form out, and then we're going to go see who filled out that form, we're just going to put the video out, and then with intelligence and data, we're going to see who actually watched it. And then based on that, we can trigger automated campaigns. We can pick up the phone and call them. We can send them an email. We can send them a text message. It's taking out all of the marketing blocks and giving them the value, and then using our own intelligence and data to make better decisions as marketers, as brand builders, as communicators, and people that provide value. Data is cool and we love it. I'm just looking at the link here that I shared in the webinar just a couple of minutes ago. And thank you so much to the 4 people that have clicked on that. It's nice to get that data, but guess what? The vast majority of the people that go and convert from this effort are not going to be in our data, but we're going to know because we have instinct.
Well, thank you guys so much for attending today. We know if you're in marketing or getting started, or even if you're an expert, I know you'll have found some value in this. So until next time, guys, we'll see you on the next training. Anything else, we'll be sending out the recording, so stay tuned for that. If you dipped out early, you'll have the full thing, or even if you stayed the whole time, you'll have it as well. So thanks again, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Darius. Thank you to
Daniel.
all the attendees. Thank you so much for being the best part of Dubb. See you guys.
Bye-bye.